episode 692 with the podcast that is Swimming America, the Outdoor Sports Podcast presented by Betfred Sportsbook. It is Monday, April 3rd, 2023. People, I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody is having a great day. If you cannot hear, the voice is struggling. I have been in Houston since Wednesday doing media stuff all week, UConn game, all that good stuff. We had the UConn party on Sunday. I'm at the end here, people, but I appreciate your support, and we are going to have a loaded, fun Championship Monday Aaron Torres pod. Here's what you need to know about today's show. It's pretty straightforward. You guys and girls know the deal by now. We're going to open. We'll actually very quickly look back at both national semifinals, the San Diego State victory. I'll tell you what, I've known Lamont Butler since he was 14 years old. That was an incredible moment for him, for San Diego State, and for college basketball. We'll discuss that game, a little bit on the UConn game, and then, of course, we will preview the national championship game with the one pressing question. Is there any chance at all that San Diego State can pull off the upset against UConn? We will discuss that. And then from there, we'll take a quick break, and we do have to talk a little more portal. I hope you guys and girls aren't tired of portal talk, but Hunter Dickinson is in the portal. Since we last spoke, a two-time All-American Hunter Dickinson, center from Michigan, enters the transfer portal, so we will discuss that. Some other portal news and notes. Hunter Sallis from Gonzaga is in, and we will get out of here. All college hoops today. Listen, we're going to start getting back to football as we get deeper into the spring, but right now, national championship game, portal season. It is a busy time, and we have a loaded Aaron Torres pod. A couple quick notes before we get started on today's show. First of all, anybody that came out to the UConn party on Sunday here in Houston, I truly, truly, truly appreciate your support. I think you can hear in my voice. It was fun, maybe a little bit too much fun. I am struggling, but I appreciate everybody's support. A bunch of listeners of the show, a bunch of UConn alums, maybe finding out about the show now. Genuinely appreciate everybody who came out. By the way, I'm thinking I'm going to do this every year at the Final Four. Just throw a Sunday day party. We'll have a blast, all that good stuff. But thank you to everybody who came out. A quick scheduling note. So national championship game is on Monday. I fly out super early Tuesday. Don't know if we'll get the immediate national championship game post-show. Might have to wait until Wednesday. We will discuss that. We'll figure it out. If I can do a show Monday night, I will. But, Central Time, get out of the arena around 12, all that good stuff. I don't know if there will be time, so stay tuned for that. And finally, thank you to our presenting sponsor, Betfred Sportsbook. We'll give you all the national championship details coming up, but we appreciate their support. And, of course, Bracket Fanatics, who was our sponsor for the Aaron Torres Pod Bracket Challenge. The Aaron Torres Pod Bracket Challenge was a great success. We will announce the winners later this week. And remember, for all of your bracket needs, not just college basketball, but soccer, tennis, cricket, whatever, the NFL Pick'em Challenge, which we did, make sure to check out bracketfanatics.com. With that said, though, let's get to the topic of the day. And the topic of the day, let's look back on Saturday before we look ahead to Monday. College hoops, all episode. Let me start by saying this. If I have one reaction to big picture Saturday, let me say this. All I heard all week in the lead up to the Final Four. Now, I haven't seen the TV ratings when I'm recording this. We'll see how many people actually watched. But all I heard all week in the lead up to the Final Four was this. It was, this is the most boring Final Four that we have ever had. Nobody's going to watch. Nobody cares about San Diego State. The games are going to be awful. And this tournament is so bad because no longer does it determine who the best team in the country is. Well, I was at both games in Houston on Saturday. You guys and girls, if you care enough to listen to this, were watching both games on Saturday. And let me ask this. Was San Diego State, Florida Atlantic not crazy entertaining? And does UConn not look like the best team despite their seeding? So let's talk about the two games because I thought this was a great Final Four Saturday. Final Four is just such a fun weekend overall. I thought this was a great Final Four Saturday, though, and I kind of want to get into some of thoughts on each game. We'll start with the early San Diego State, Florida Atlantic game, get to the nightcap, and then, of course, preview Monday night's game. Let's start with that Florida Atlantic San Diego State game, and listen, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I know sometimes I get long-winded. You don't want to hear the whole Torres, well, at the 11-minute mark of the first half, this happened, and then this happened with 11 minutes to go in the second half, and I was worried. I know that I can tend to do that sometimes, so let's avoid all of the fluff, and let's get right to it. You want to talk about that final shot, that final moment, that iconic buzzer beater from Lamont Butler as the San Diego State guard goes the length of the court. And how about this? For the first time, this was a crazy stat. In the history of the Final Four, we had a game-winning buzzer beater when the team was trailing. So that Villanova game a few years ago, actually in Houston as well, where they beat North Carolina at the buzzer, those two teams were tied. If Chris Jenkins misses that shot, that game goes to overtime, and we're all hunky-dory. This was the first one where if Lamont Butler misses that shot, San Diego State is going home. Instead, he hits it, and San Diego State pulls off the victory 72-71. Couple thoughts on the shot itself. You know, my first reaction is this. I don't know what it was like to watch on TV, okay? But what I can tell you is being in the arena, I'll be blunt. I thought he was going to run out of time. I don't know what again, I can't speak to what it was like to watch on TV, but at the same time, I'm watching in the arena and he drives to the baseline and then he cuts back and I'm like, oh my God, he's going to run out of time. But what I would also say is the second that the shot went up, the second that the shot went in, I knew it was off with plenty of time to spare. So it was the weird thing where I thought he was taking too long. Then it was clear to me that it wasn't even a question of whether the shot was off in time. So Butler gets the shot off. The Butler did it. San Diego State advances. Second thing, which I thought it was interesting being in the stadium. I don't know what the TV broadcast was like, but in the stadium, everything happens so fast. Everyone's going crazy. I mean, you have 74,000 people, something like that. Everybody's screaming at once, complete pandemonium. Nobody knows what to do. Did anyone else see this on TV? And you can DM me at Aaron_Torres, Aaron Torres Pod on Twitter. Was anybody did they keep showing Jaden Leday, the power forward? Because we're in the arena and I keep looking up at the monitor waiting for a replay, and they're showing Jaden Leday, a 6'9" power forward, so much that I'm like, is he the one that hit the shot? Because I saw a little guard. Lamont Butler's a 6'3" guard, and they keep showing a 6'9" guy. Did I miss something? Did he pass the ball and I didn't see it? I did not know. So those are my initial reactions. But let me just say some big picture stuff. One, I'm going to be a little bit self-indulgent at this point, okay? So give me about 2-3 minutes to go on Torres story time here, because this is something that I do want to share, and I always try to take you guys and girls behind the curtain of what I do. I try to be transparent. I try to be honest. And so I bring it up because, listen, I say it all the time. I'm not a recruiting guy on this show. Now, I know enough recruiting people to kind of have the insight in basketball and football, portal, high school, whatever. I'm not a guy that's on the road 285 days a year evaluating high school players. But every once in a while, somebody that I know, a coach, whatever, will hit me up and say, Torres, you got to come check out my guy. And out of respect, I always try to build relationships, meet people, all that good stuff. And so I bring it up because this was probably 2017, 2018. Buddy of mine, his name is Justin Downer. He's now an assistant coach at a school called Point Loma in San Diego, D2 powerhouse. He calls me up. He's a high school coach in Riverside, California at Riverside Poly. Most notably, that's where Reggie Miller went to high school a million years ago. He goes, Aaron, you got to come see my kid Lamont. And so I drove out in LA traffic. Probably a 35-minute drive became 2 hours. I get to the gym. I walk in the gym, and I'm like, okay, who's this big-time D1 prospect that my buddy Justin keeps telling me about? What am I doing here? And I asked somebody in the stands, oh, which one's Lamont? Which one's Lamont? And they showed me. And Lamont was a sophomore at the time. And Lamont was probably, and I'll tell you a funny story about this in a minute, but Lamont was probably about 5'9", maybe 140 pounds. And so I remember thinking, like, my buddy Justin knows hoops. Like he's a great talent evaluator. He's coached some great players that are now in the NBA. And I was like, that's the kid that he wants me to see. Now, he was a sophomore. And afterwards, just keep saying, this kid's different. Just wait. Be patient. Wait till he gets a little bit bigger. Wait till he fills out his frame. He is going to be a beast. And so after the game, I talked a little bit to Lamont and his family and his father, Lamont Sr., and I just bring it up to say one of the cool things about my job is to see these players come full circle. And I'm not a recruiting guy. I don't claim to be. There's a lot of people that work in that space that work really, really hard at that craft. But one of the cool things is when you get to build a relationship like that. And I remember seeing this kid at 14 years old, not really fully understanding what my friend was telling me to watch. Then he gets a little bigger, commits to San Diego State, plays as a freshman, sophomore starter, hits a couple big shots this year. And then to see him on this stage, even before the shot, I was so proud of him, man. It was like, you know, I don't have kids. I think everybody knows that. But it was like seeing like somebody you know grow up in front of your eyes. You know, I remember him as the 5'8", too skinny, getting pushed around, whatever. And for that kid to hit a shot on that stage, it was just the most surreal moment. I had chills, I had goosebumps, I had whatever. And the cool thing, and sometimes you get lucky with stuff, but on Friday at San Diego State's media availability, I actually went into Lamont's press conference. And Lamont, it was interesting because Lamont, on Friday, they have what they call breakout rooms where every player gets his own room and reporters kind of come in and out. And so I'm sitting there and there's about 2 or 3 other reporters in the room with Lamont. And they all ask questions. And the moderator points to me and he says, you have anything, you know, you want to add for Lamont? And I said, honestly, no. I said, Lamont was on the podium at this point. I said, you know, I don't mean to be weird here, but I've known Lamont. Lamont, I've known you since you were about 14 years old, 140 pounds. And he starts laughing. He said, yeah, that's probably about right. And I said, I'm so proud of you, man. There's so many people that are proud of you. He and I talked in the locker room. We took a picture. I posted the picture on social media. But it was one of those full circle moments. And so that was a much longer story than I wanted to tell. But you know, Torres tells stories sometimes. And that's one of the cool parts of my job. But to see this kid, 14 years old, 140 pounds, didn't have a San Diego State offer at that point, see where he was, to see him in that moment, I thought that was so cool. And what I would finally wrap up with from the San Diego State perspective, I think that's what makes March so cool, right? Again, we heard all week, this is boring. Nobody's going to care. These games are going to be unwatchable. And then what happens? Some kid named Lamont Butler, who none of you knew anything about before this week. I probably never talked about him on the show because I don't do San Diego State deep dives during the season. But a kid named Lamont Butler, who you probably never knew, just hit a shot that is going to make him a college basketball icon forever. And we just don't get this in other sports. And so every time people criticize NCAA tournament, March Madness, this and that, college basketball, oh, there's too many transfers. The NIL's ruining everything. I don't know any of the players anymore. What makes college basketball, there's always a Lamont Butler. There's always somebody that emerges in this tournament that makes you care. And so I thought it was so cool to have that moment following a week where, oh, it's so boring. Oh, nobody cares. And then Lamont Butler comes through and hits a shot that literally until they stop playing the NCAA tournament. So, you know, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be around. I don't know how much longer any of you are going to be around, but I'll tell you this. Until an asteroid hits this earth and the NCAA tournament stops existing, they are going to be playing that shot on every broadcast ever from now until the end of time. That's what makes college basketball so cool. That's what makes college basketball so different than any other sport. And congrats to San Diego State, by the way. We're going to preview the national championship game in a minute. I don't think a lot of people know this because I didn't know this until last week. But the city of San Diego has actually never won a major championship in any sport. They had the Chargers forever. The Chargers never won a Super Bowl. They've had the San Diego Padres forever. San Diego Padres have never won a World Series. And San Diego State, you know, major athletics, has never won a national championship. And so listen, we'll preview UConn game in a minute. San Diego State's going to have an uphill climb, but San Diego State has a chance to do something that no school, no team has ever done in that city, win a championship for that city. It would be really cool. We'll see if it happens, but congrats to San Diego State. Congrats to Lamont Butler. And lastly, congrats to that whole team. Just a good group of kids overall. I know I've said it a few times the last few weeks, but 4th, 5th, 6th-year guys, all they care about is winning. All they care about is being part of a team. You don't see that in college basketball anymore, and I am happy for that group. Let's very quickly get to the UConn-Miami game. And, like, what is there to say about UConn-Miami? Like, what is there to say about UConn at this point that has not already been said? Final score in this game, UConn 72, Miami 59. And what's crazy is, listen, this is the 4th straight double-figure win for UConn. And beyond that, it's the fourth straight double-figure win from UConn. But this one, to me, I'll be honest, this did feel like the game where it was like, I think San Diego State might get them. Like, I really think that Miami. I really think that Miami, like, I think they have a chance, right? And so let's talk about the game, because what was so surprising was how easy UConn made it look. And I know they've been beating everybody, 4 straight wins by 15 plus points. But think about Miami coming into this game. And I know this is a lot of stuff we talked about on Friday, but Miami was the ACC regular season champ, number 5 offense in college basketball, a high-scoring juggernaut. And think about their tournament path. Yeah, they had to hold off Drake in an upset potential in the 5-12 game. But after that, think about what they did. Destroyed Indiana. From there, Houston. Houston was the number 1 seed in that region, one of the top teams all season long. Miami was on them early. Houston makes a run. Miami doesn't flinch. Then Texas, they're down 13 points and rally to win. And so I just bring it up because it's insane to me, the fact that this team that was as good as it was all regular season, all NCAA tournament, overcoming adversity, they just never had an answer for UConn. UConn jumped up 9-0, and it was never that close after that. Now, I know in the first, late in the second half, there was a moment where UConn was up by 18 or 19. Miami made a run to cut it to 8. But then even when that happened, UConn immediately jumped back out to 12, 13, 14 points. And then Miami made another run and cut it to 8 or 9. And UConn made another run before the victory. And so I think when I think about Saturday night, that is the thing that is most surprising to me. The thing that is most surprising to me is like, oh my God. Like I thought, keep in mind, the line in the Betfred Sportsbook, Miami was a 5.5-point underdog. That line didn't move all week, with the insinuation being like money was coming in on UConn, and all of the handicappers liked that. They wanted that. They thought the right side was Miami plus 5.5. I had a buddy who is a sharp, smart bettor text me on Saturday, and he said, I know you're a UConn guy, but Miami plus 5.5 has to be the play. And I said, listen, I'm not betting against Miami to keep things close, if not pulling off the upset. So the fact that UConn played the way that they did is just absolutely incredible to me. And really 2 things stand out about that game and how it went down. I think the first thing that stands out to me, the weapons that UConn has, right? The weapons that UConn has. Because you think about that game, first half, Jordan Hawkins, their star player, their best NBA draft prospect, was sick all week, missed Friday's, media availability, practice, all that good stuff. He only had 3 points in the first half. He did play, and he's going to play on Monday night. He only had 3 points. Andre Jackson gets in foul trouble. And what happens? Dama Sanogo scores 13. Donovan Clingan comes off the bench and plays well. Tristan Newton, the transfer point guard, plays really well. And they just didn't miss a beat. Oh, you have an NBA top 15 pick who's only got 3 points, and maybe your most important emotional leader is on the bench with foul trouble, and you're just up 13 points? Or you're up 13 points at the half. So that was one. And then I do think the other thing that did stand out to me, it is the defensive element of UConn basketball. And again, I've talked about this a lot this year with an Alabama or whoever. But I think we get so caught up in offensive basketball, how pretty it is, the sets, the this, the that. How does this happen? Defense at the end of the game was what won UConn this game. Again, Miami was the 5th-ranked offense in college basketball this year. They were held to 25% shooting in the first half, 33% shooting in the game. I mean, that is freaking insane, and it speaks to how good UConn is on both ends of the court. It isn't just an offensive thing. It isn't just a defensive thing. They are great on both sides. And I really think more than anything, it was the defense that led them to victory. So UConn gets the win. Again, I don't think there's much else from the Miami perspective. Listen, I'll just say one quick thing on Miami. I do want to give those guys credit. I thought, there's a lot of stuff that's said about them. I thought they handled themselves very well over the course of the week. And when I say stuff is said about them, I'm talking about the NIL stuff, John Ruiz, all that. They just struck me as well put together, smart, savvy young men, right? And a lot of them are fourth, fifth year guys like San Diego State. And like, I was at these press conferences and all these reporters, I don't really care about NIL at this point. It is what it is. It's not changing. Nobody cares what I think. But a lot of these reporters, big J's, old school guys, whatever, they're all, tell us about NIL and blah, blah, blah. And like, they're trying to corner these kids into saying something dumb so they can print that quote. Not everybody, but some. And I just thought the kids handled it so well. Like Isaiah Wong was like, no, it's a great thing. Like, I'm helping my family. I'm learning business. I'm learning how to save. And like they were just a really well put together team. And I actually give them credit. I think we all, in my profession, I'm able to talk to certain people, but I know you guys and girls, you listen to shows like this, you read message boards. There's a lot of stuff that's negative about NIL. Miami proves that in the NIL world, you can still win at a high level if you know what you're doing, if you have the right coach, if you have the right players, which I think is important as well. So congrats to them. Finally, before I wrap this segment, let's very quickly get to the one question everybody wants to know. Monday night, UConn. They opened as a 6-point favorite to the Betfred Sportsbook. It's already up to 7.5 as I'm recording here about 7:30, 7:45 Central Time on Sunday night. And everybody wants to know, is there any way that San Diego State can pull off the upset? So what I'm not going to do over the next few minutes, I'm not going to do the whole, here's the 7 keys to victory. And no. Let's just get to it. Can San Diego State do, I don't know if it's the unthinkable, but can they do the unthinkable and upset UConn? I'll say this. I think San Diego State can. But will they? I'll be honest. I'm not trying to be Homer UConn guy. I just don't know how. I just don't see the scenario. And let me explain. Why I say that is because, listen, the San Diego State story is incredible. You guys know I've been riding the San Diego State, the Aztec train forever. I've been a fan of this program for years. I said on this show in the 2020 season, that team is good enough to win a national championship. His tournament was obviously canceled that year because of COVID. But I bring it up because with this San Diego State team, I do think at this point we know who they are, right? Like we've seen 5 games in the NCAA tournament. And this isn't a knock, it's just who they are. Is that they are a team that is great defensively, is very big, very athletic, very deep, and they come after you wave after wave after wave after wave after wave, but they're not great offensively. And so far it hasn't cost them, right? Now they've played close games. 1-point game against Creighton, 1-point game against Florida Atlantic. The first round game against, who was it? Charleston was very close. So they play close games, but I think their kind of mantra is like, you can get up, but we're eventually going to wear you down with our guys and with our bodies and with our depth. And we even saw it in a lot of times, but we saw it not only on Saturday night, we saw it in the Elite Eight against Creighton. Creighton was up most of the first half. Creighton was up most of the second half. It was San Diego State that won by 1. Florida Atlantic was unbelievable in the first half. But then in the second half, you could start to feel like San Diego State got to stop. San Diego State got to score. Now, they missed a lot of layups. They missed a lot of free throws. But it just, every time you looked up, you're like, Florida Atlantic feels like they should be up by like 13 points. It's a 6-point game. Florida Atlantic feels up like they should be up by 11. It's a 3-point game. Like, what is going on? And eventually, obviously, San Diego State gets the win. The problem is, I just don't think San Diego State is going to be able to do that against UConn. And it's for 2 simple reasons. It's one, the first part is everything that San Diego State does, UConn does it too. So let me put it this way. Every San Diego State strength is also a strength of UConn. If I just said size, that could be a descriptor of UConn or of San Diego State. Of depth, San Diego State or UConn. Experience, San Diego State or UConn. All of the things that make San Diego State, that let them wear down Florida Atlantic, that let them wear down Creighton. Creighton's a power conference team, but they're not very deep. They're not very big. You can eventually wear them down. Well, I don't think you can do that against UConn. I'll say this for UConn. I was thinking about UConn. Like, the size is jarring in person. And I think everybody gets caught up on the 2 centers, Adama Sanogo, Donovan Clingan. But at the same time, look across the rest of the team, because I think the rest of the team is where the size is really just like shocking. Like think about UConn's starting lineup. Starting point guard, Tristan Newton, 6'5". Starting, wing, if you will, Andre Jackson. Dan Hurley said this week, he's like, nobody in the country has a guy like that. I talked to a coach that coached against UConn in the NCAA tournament. He goes, there's no scouting report for those guys. They're so big, they're so fast, they're so athletic, they defend, they play offense, they play defense. There's no scouting report for him. Andre Jackson, 6'9", but he's a ball handler, but he's a great defender, but he's a rim protector. There's nobody like him in college basketball. Alex Caravan, the starting power forward, is 6'10", but he shoots threes. Off the bench, Naheem Aline, 6'5", shooting guard. Joey Calcaterra, 6'8", wing. Everyone is just big and everyone's athletic. And so the size stuff is going to be negated for San Diego State. And then also, and this is important, like the San Diego State blueprint, I just don't think is going to work against UConn, because UConn's defense is so good that it doesn't leave the margin for error for San Diego State that it did for other teams. And so what I mean by that is that, like, think about this. Like, think about if a best case scenario defensively happens for San Diego State, and just pick a stretch of the game from the 8-minute mark in the first half until the 1-minute mark of the first half. San Diego State holds UConn to 2 points. So like a 7-minute stretch, 6-minute stretch, whatever, holds UConn to 2 points. The problem for San Diego State is, are they going to be able to build up a big enough lead for when UConn inevitably makes a run? And I don't think that they will. Like San Diego State, if they might hold you to 2 points over a 6-minute stretch, but are they going to be able to go on that 9-2 run, that 11-2 run to bury you? So when you go on your run, when UConn inevitably goes on its run, that they're able to have a cushion. And I don't think they do. And so I could go on and on, but I'm not saying this as a UConn guy. I'm not saying it as a guy that's speaking it into existence. I was nervous about Miami. I was nervous about Gonzaga. I was certainly nervous about Arkansas. I don't know that I see the blueprint for San Diego State to pull off the upset. Can it happen? Yeah, they're good enough. Fourth, fifth, sixth year seniors. Yeah, they're not going to be afraid. But I just don't know what they do to win. And so my final score in the national championship game, I will say UConn. How about this? I'll give you the same score they just beat Miami by, because I think that sounds about right. UConn 72, Miami 59. UConn 72, Miami 59. UConn is your 2023 national champions. And by the way, on the next show, whether it's Tuesday or Wednesday, we'll do a full recap of what it means for both schools if UConn were to win it, a 5th championship in 24 years. There's already a lot of blue blood stuff going on. We'll talk about all that if UConn wins. And obviously, if San Diego State wins, I think it's going to be one of the great stories in the history of college basketball. They would be the first team, not technically, they'd be really the first sort of mid-major-ish type team since UNLV in 1990 to win a national championship. So it's all something to think about, but that's my prediction. Again, we'll have a full recap on the next Aaron Torres pod, but I have UConn 72, San Diego State 59. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break, going to come back, and when we come back, that freaking transfer portal, man. Hunter Dickinson in the portal. Hunter Sallis in the portal. Going to take a quick break, talk about that. Where are the landing spots for Hunter Dickinson? We'll get back to the show in a minute. But before we do, I want to welcome back our presenting sponsor, Betfred Sportsbook and the Betfred Sportsbook app. It is March. You want to make wagers, and there is no better place to make them than at the Betfred Sportsbook, the presenting sponsor of the Aaron Torres pod and all things Aaron Torres media. By now, you know Betfred's story. Started in 1967 in the UK, over 1,600 shops in the UK, and they have come to the United States and made a major splash. They are the presenting sponsor of the Colorado Rockies, Denver Broncos, Cincinnati Bengals, Aaron Torres Media. And what I love about Betfred, they do more for their customers than anybody. And here's what they're doing for you this March. You can bet $50 on any game this March, any game, and they will give you up to $1,111 in free bets. Here's how it works. Download the Betfred Sportsbook app, go to betfredsports.com, make your first $50 wager. You automatically get $111 in free bets. But then, how about this? For the first 5 weeks, that you are a Betfred customer, you will be insured for up to $200 for the first 5 weeks. So you make a few bets, and we're all going to win all our bets this March. But if it doesn't work out, they'll give you up to $200 back for the first 5 weeks that you're a Betfred customer. So download the Betfred Sportsbook app, bet $50 on any game, 111 in free bets, plus up to $200 in free bets in insurance the first 5 weeks. That is all you got to do. Betfred Sportsbook app. Tell them Torres sent you. Enjoy March, everybody. All right, everybody. I'm back live from a hotel room in Houston. So good to be back. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, the kids got to get home. I need a haircut. I need a shave. I need a nap. I need everything. But it's great to be in Houston. And I do want to wrap this show. Let me say this. I want to wrap the show on a topic that we've obviously talked about a ton over the last few weeks, but it is a topic that warrants continued discussion because crazy stuff just keeps happening. And that is, of course, the college basketball transfer portal. We've done it all. We've hit on everything. But since we last recorded on Thursday night, oh my goodness, have we gotten a mega piece of news in the transfer portal. So when we last left off, I think I said last week, I think that Caleb Love is probably the most high-profile player to ever enter the transfer portal. Hits that iconic shot to beat Duke, send Coach K into retirement. When that guy leaves, I don't know if there's a bigger player in college basketball that can leave. But what I will say is on Friday, we certainly got a more talented player, and I would argue maybe the most accomplished player to ever enter the transfer portal. When on Friday, Hunter Dickinson, a two-time All-American at Michigan, announced that he will transfer and enter the portal. This was stunning news. This was shocking news. I can say at the Final Four, it was all anybody was talking about at parties and get-togethers and in elevators and in hotel lobbies. Just an absolute stunner. So let's break it down from all angles. Now, let me start by saying this. Like I said, I don't think we've ever seen a player quite like this enter the portal. This is the equivalent of, I'm not saying they're the same kinds of player, but I am saying they can have the same impact. This is like LeBron James hitting free agency. This is like Giannis hitting free agency, Dwayne Wade hitting free agency, because Hunter Dickinson is a guy you can build a national championship team around. Two-time All-American. This year he averaged 19 points, 9 rebounds per game. He's learned how to stretch the floor, shot about 43% from three this year. And so I know that we're going away from this world with true centers and all that, but listen, at the college level, oh, that's a guy you can win around. Because think about UConn's big and physical. You go through some of the other teams that had success throughout the season. Alabama played through the wings, but they were big as heck down low. The point I'm trying to make is this is a guy you can build a national championship team around, and now he is available. Now, in terms of why he left, I think a lot of people have kind of DM'd me privately. Why do you think it was? What do you think happened? Listen, I think it was a weird deal at Michigan. Year one, he comes in. That was the 2021 COVID bubble season. And a lot of Beeline's players were still there. John Beilein, the previous head coach. It was a great culture, great system, older players. I thought Juwan Howard did a very good job that year of, finding players in the portal. So they had a lot of returnees from the Beilein era, Isaiah Livers, Franz Wagner, who's obviously having a ton of success in the NBA. They found Chaundi Brown in the portal. They found the point guard in the portal. I think his name was Mike Smith. And so you had a team that was the Big Ten champ and the number one seed, one of the number one seeds in the NCAA tournament. They ended up losing in the Elite Eight, but that was a great college basketball team. The problem is that since that season, Hunter Dickinson, he's not really an NBA prospect, so I understand why he wants to stay in college basketball. But since that season, it's all kind of gone downhill for Michigan around Hunter Dickinson. Hunter Dickinson has been the rock, the pillar, but everything else around him has been chaos. 2 years ago, Juwan Howard signed, I think it was maybe even the number one recruiting class in the country, but those guys came in, they didn't perform well, and then most of them left after last year. Caleb Houston decided to go pro, didn't have much of an impact as a college player. Musa Diabite decided to go pro, didn't have much impact as a college player. So those were guys that you'd hope to get back for a second or third year. Basically, it was the worst case scenario in the one and done era. You bring in the high profile players, it doesn't click, and then they leave. Like, it's one thing if they're not very good, but they come back for a second, third year, and they at some point contribute. And it's another thing if they're really good and they help you win. But when they're not good, they don't help you win, and they still leave. It was crushing to Michigan last year. They also lost a very good guard named Frankie Collins to the portal. He's now at Arizona State. And then this season, it was kind of the same. It was a trimmed down roster. Michigan really didn't do very much in the portal around Hunter Dickinson, and it was a struggle. Well, fast forward to next year as well. Michigan's maybe their best pro prospect for sure, Jet Howard, Juwan's son. He's already declared that he's going pro. Kobe Buffkin, their point guard, is projected to be a very high draft pick, so he will probably leave. And all of a sudden, I think Hunter Dickinson looked up and said, why am I coming back to Michigan? To what? To grind for 20 and 10 every night because I don't have help around me. Now, this is the portal world. There is the opportunity to backfill and all that. But until you see what the roster is going to be around you, I think it's hard for Hunter Dickinson to commit. He had to make a decision, and he decides to leave. And so that's probably why. I just think he kind of looked at the roster and said, am I just going to come back to get my brains beat in every single night, triple team, not enough help around me, or should I go see what else is out there? So now the question becomes, what else is out there? Because I would think that just about everybody in college basketball would be in pursuit of this guy, right? I mean, the names that are most obviously popping up, he is from the DC area. So the first one is Maryland. And for those of you who are college basketball junkies, that's kind of a funny story, and let me explain why. Hunter Dickinson is from Maryland, and he felt like during the recruiting process, they kind of ignored him. And so year one, especially that COVID year when Michigan was rolling, like he made it a priority. He had Maryland circled on the calendar twice, and he went after them hard. So for him to potentially come full circle, go to Maryland, that would be insane if that ended up happening. We'll see if it does. And then two, I think it'd also be wild if he somehow ended up at Georgetown. Now, the Georgetown perspective, by the way, from the Maryland perspective, it's worth noting as well. Remember, he was hated at Maryland when he went as a visiting player. Now imagine if a year from now, still in the Big Ten, he has to go to Michigan to play at Michigan. That would be a wild plot twist right there. But I'll say this, from the college basketball perspective, and I'm a little biased, and maybe it's because I'm at the Final Four and I got UConn fever and Big East fever. How great, what a statement would it be for Georgetown and Ed Cooley to land this guy, right? Because Georgetown, listen, I think we're all of the age that most of us probably don't remember like the greatest days of Georgetown, but I remember Georgetown with Allen Iverson. I remember Georgetown mattering. And listen, it wasn't that long ago when JT3 was the head coach that MCI Center, I think that's what they call it, the downtown DC arena, was packed to the gills. That city was on fire with Georgetown basketball. And so imagine if Ed Cooley in year one could bring in Hunter Dickinson to be the centerpiece of a rebuild. Now, the question becomes, is there going to be any more talent around him at Georgetown than there was at Michigan? But if you bring him in as a centerpiece, I guarantee you can backfill and find some very nice players to play alongside him if you're Ed Cooley. We'll see if it happens. I don't know. And I would say, finally, the other name that I do hear, I saw Travis Branham, really good college hoops writer. So I'm by no means criticizing Travis. He's great at what he does. He mentioned that Hunter Dickinson had taken an unofficial to Kentucky. I don't see that. I don't. Kentucky has the 7-foot McDonald's All-American Aaron Bradshaw coming in, the 7-footer Ugo Kingsley that was on the bench this year. I don't really see that one happening. But the one that I do think could happen, I think Duke could be in play. Because think about Duke. Duke this week, Tyrese Proctor, starting guard, announced he's coming back. Mark Mitchell, starting wing, announced he's coming back. Top, number 2 recruiting class in the country, headlined by Mackenzie and Bako. Oh, by the way, Jeremy Roach probably coming back this year as well. The 2-time starting point guard, was the starting point guard on the Final Four team a few years ago. The one thing that they're missing right now is a big guy down low, with Derek Lively probably going pro. You add Hunter Dickinson to that team, I'm just telling you, I'm working on the preseason top 25 right now. I'm here to tell you that is probably your number 1 team going into next season if you have Hunter Dickinson, Jeremy Roach, Tyrese Proctor, etc. So we'll see what happens with Hunter Dickinson. I'm so fascinated to see this recruiting process play out. But then also, let me add this. This is a crippling blow for Juwan Howard and Michigan. And what I would say is, being at the Final Four, I can definitively tell you that this is the talk of the Final Four right now, or at least it was on Friday. Now, a lot of stuff happens over the course of a weekend, but I think this might be the death blow for Juwan Howard, because there was so much excitement around that team 3 years ago. He came back. He's of course, former player, all that good stuff, has that great Big Ten title season, number 1 seed. But it has fallen apart the further that they've gotten away from John Beilein and John Beilein's players. And so this is his program. This is his culture. Last year, they go 19-15, sneak into the NCAA tournament. Now, they did make a Sweet 16 to their credit. That was, of course, Tennessee fans, cover your ears. That was the year that Tennessee was playing so well coming into the NCAA tournament. Michigan beats Colorado State in year one and then goes to the NIT. But it doesn't change the fact that they got in as an 11 seed. Barely snuck in last year. This year, they were an NIT team, finished 18-16 overall. But more importantly, for Juwan Howard, this guy was your rock. This guy was your pillar. This guy is everything that you have built around a 3-year player in your program. And if he's bailing ship on top of everything else, that's really, really, really bad. And I don't know how you recover. And I don't know how you put together a team that competes at the highest level in the Big Ten next year. And if it doesn't, we all kind of know what that means. That'll be 3 years in a row that they've underperformed. And I do wonder if his time is starting to run out. I heard from Michigan fans, he should be on the hot seat right now. That was before the Hunter Dickinson news. Woo! Not very good going into next year. So listen, this is one we'll monitor and we'll keep an eye on, but just an insane, insane, insane story. Hunter Dickinson is headed to the transfer portal. Really quickly, before we get out of here, a couple other news and notes from the portal. Hunter Dickinson, how about this? You want a punny thing? Hunter Dickinson wasn't the only big Hunter to enter the transfer portal this weekend. Hunter Sallis, former McDonald's All-American guard from Gonzaga, entered the transfer portal. 4.5 points per game, 2.5 rebounds per game. Listen, this is a name that feels big on paper. He committed to Gonzaga over Kentucky. For a long time, it was, it felt like it was a Kentucky-Kansas battle at one point. Gonzaga comes in, Gonzaga wins his recruitment. I'll be real. I don't think this is probably as big as it feels. This kid just has not performed at Gonzaga. And listen, what I think ended up happening with him, it's really interesting. So he was a senior during that COVID year of 2020 when there were fewer games, when scouts couldn't get on the road, when they couldn't see these players in person. And so I'll give you a crazy example. I was talking to Jordan Hawkins, the UConn star, on Saturday night after the game. He is a sophomore, same year as Hunter Sallis. And Jordan Hawkins said, I actually never visited UConn before showing up for school. Like, I committed, had never met Dan Hurley in person, showed up on campus day one for class. So like, that was the class of 2021. Hunter Sallis was part of that. And I do wonder, was he maybe a little bit over-evaluated because of the fact that he was in that high school class of 2021? People didn't get eyes on him, all that good stuff. I don't know. But he hasn't been that good of a college player. So I bring it up because I've had a lot of people, Kentucky fans, hey, is this, what does this mean for Kentucky? Can we make it happen? Blah, 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 blah. I'm just here to say, I don't know that, I don't think this is the guy that's the savior of your program. In my opinion, he's a great third guard, probably. So if you're Kentucky next year and you have DJ Wagner and Antonio Reeves, I think Hunter Sallis is a very nice third guard. I don't think he is plug and play 18-6, and it was Gonzaga's fault, because Gonzaga actually plays the perfect system for him and his style of play. So I'll be curious, right now, no real insight into any legitimate schools. He's from Omaha. The Creighton style of play would fit him well, but Creighton brings back a lot. They also just took a transfer. Is Kansas in the mix? Is one of those Midwest schools in the mix? I don't know. Kansas is replacing a lot of players as well. But I'm just here to tell you, I look at this. I don't think it's quite as big of a deal as people make it out to be. A couple other notes. One, Tremont Mark, a key player from Houston these past couple years, decided to both enter the NBA draft and the portal. Listen, this is one. I think he's going to test the waters. I think he'll come back. 10 points per game, 5 rebounds per game. Listen, Houston's actually the perfect place for him. He's one of these super hard-playing guards. I don't think he's super skilled, about a 33% three-point shooter. And maybe working on skills is what he needs, right? But a good off-the-ball guy, a good defender. I actually think Houston's kind of the right spot for him, but he decides to enter the portal. And then the only other piece of news that I saw, Jameer Nelson Jr. So we talked about him a little bit on Friday's show. Jameer Nelson Jr. has committed to TCU. I actually think that's a great get. TCU will lose Mike Miles, that star guard, to the NBA draft. So TCU now mines the portal and gets Jameer Nelson, a guard that averaged 20 points per game. Yes, the son of Jameer Nelson Sr. With that said, I think that's it for this episode of the Aaron Torres Sports Podcast. It is time for me to get out of here. Before I do, Make sure you're subscribed to the Aaron Torres Sports Podcast, Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Music. Wherever you listen to podcasts, make sure to subscribe. Also, make sure to rate and review the show. Go and give us a quick 5 stars. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, all that good stuff. Make sure you're following on social media at Aaron_Torres on Twitter, at Aaron Torres Pod on Instagram, Aaron Torres Podcast Questions at gmail.com, Aaron Torres Podcast Questions at gmail.com. I'll be honest, don't know when we'll be doing the next show. National championship game is on Monday night. I will be flying out early Tuesday. So maybe a Tuesday night, Wednesday-ish type recap show. But the schedule this week is going to be a little bit touch and go, but we'll be back. We'll have a lot of portal stuff. So make sure you're paying attention as it is time for me to get out of here. Shout out to Torrent Craig. Shout out to Rachel, who hates my voice. And boy, you probably hated it today because it is sore and crickety from yelling and screaming all weekend in Houston. Shout out to JJ Redick, you F-head. Unblock me, bro. I will be back sometime this week to recap San Diego State UConn National Championship. Have a good day, everybody.